Hello and welcome to Moto Mental Health, another episode. Today I'm actually moto vlogging with you. So as promised, I got my GoPro set up in my new helmet, and so yeah, this is actually going to be a video. This is actually going to be what made me decide to become a therapist. And so with that question, it really stems from my childhood. It kind of started there. So I was actually born in Missouri. I was born in the Boot Hill of Missouri. If you look at the map of Missouri, you'll see on the bottom southeast corner, there's a little section that kind of pops out, and they call it the Boot Hill. And it's right on the border of Arkansas. And Missouri is where I was born. I was born in Cardwell, Missouri, literally in between 4 cotton fields. One day my dad actually took me to where I was born, me and my wife, and he takes us way out in the middle of nowhere in a bunch of cotton fields, dirt roads, and he shows us a section where cleared land, and he said, well, that's where you were born. You were actually born in the home. So we lived so far out, my mom actually gave birth to me, and one of my older brothers had to run a couple miles to go get the local doctor. He told me later that time that me and the doctor came back, I was already born. So I was born in the home in Missouri, out in the middle of cotton fields. So my father and my mother were they did not graduate in high school, so their education was very limited. But my dad was very mechanical. He knew how to fix things, and so he was a maintenance man, and he went up toward Chicago and tried to find work because he married my mom, who was previously married with kids of her own, and my dad was previously married with kids of his own. So, and then they got together and they had me and another one of my older brothers. So we had a pretty big family, and so he had a lot of mouths to feed. So he went looking for work. He found work as a maintenance man in low-income housing in the suburbs of Chicago. And so when I was 2 years old, my dad moved the entire family up there. And so I actually grew up in about 35 miles west of Chicago in a place called Aurora, Illinois. So a little bit about that. We grew up in all of Section 8 housing, so the neighborhoods we grew up in were not the best of neighborhoods. A lot of drugs, a lot of gangs, just a lot of stuff. And so, but luckily, you know, I didn't get into very much trouble, little trouble at all. But I did see or experience or was exposed to a lot of things that, you know, young children shouldn't necessarily be exposed to just because of the environments we were living in. So my parents both struggled with alcohol addiction. I don't know if we want to use the word functional alcoholics, but my mom always made sure that we were always up and running, going to school, kept a clean house, but she did struggle with her addiction. She was a very good mom to me, and I really do love her and miss her. She's passed away now, but she did definitely struggle with her addiction to alcohol. My father the same. He was a very hard-working man, never missed much work at all. And he was much older when I was born, when they had me. Yeah, so he went to work every day, even though in the evening he would drink quite heavily. So anyway, there was a lot of dysfunction in the home just due to my parents' alcohol addiction. And then my older siblings, some of them had some of the same type addictions. Some of it was drug related as well. So just a lot of chaos within the home growing up. So I spent a lot of time sleeping in school just because I was awake, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And so anyway, with that being said, so grew up in low-income housing, was very, very much exposed to drug and alcohol addiction within the family. Had an older brother. Kind of a debate amongst the family members whether he committed suicide or it was an accidental overdose. My father feels that it was actually a suicide. And so he had different moms. So my dad's previous marriage, his oldest son, his mom wound up getting sick in 1995 of cancer, and she passed away because of it. And he really struggled with that, and he was already struggling with drugs and alcohol. And so anyway, I get a phone call from my dad in 95 and basically said, you need to come home, and Jack's dead. And so so there you go. So my brother, his life ended because of drugs and alcohol. So with that being said, that was one of the reasons why when I started taking courses, taking classes, trying to figure out what I wanted to do professionally, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to actually become a therapist and maybe help those who have gone through some of the same experiences I had to go through and endure. And so actually when I started my work in the field, I did a lot of work in the drug and alcohol addiction centers in the Sacramento area. And so, yeah, that was a little bit about my childhood growing up. I was never abused, thank goodness. I was always taken care of, but I was always exposed to the elements. When I was 16, I was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. So there's many forms of muscular dystrophy, and I've been blessed to be diagnosed with the least worst one. But my parents always knew something was going on. My dad always got me into sports. Baseball was the #1 pick, so I got into Little League and got into the city leagues. As I got older, we always knew that I was a little slower. I was very talented, just a little bit slower and a lot weaker than my peers. And my dad kept taking me to different doctors, and they kept saying, well, it's a growth spurt, he's going to grow out of it, he's going to be fine. But knew something was up. And so finally when I was 16, I found a really nice lady doctor, and she was like, well, no, we know something's kind of going on with this guy. And so they took some blood work, and the blood work came back, and they're just like, yeah, something's up. And they had a intuition that it was more of a neuromuscular disease. They took a muscle biopsy from my leg, and they confirmed that it was muscular dystrophy. So I have Backers Muscular Dystrophy. So it's skeletal, so it's not internal muscles, thank goodness. And so the prognosis was I would have very slow muscle growth, but eventually my muscle growth would stop, and then I would stagnate and kind of level off, not build muscle but not lose muscle. And so 16 to hear this kind of news, and then the diagnosis was in my 20s, mid-30s, I would start to lose my muscle strength, and it would start to decline. Some rapid with some folks, some gradual with some folks. So here I am, I'm 46, and I am riding a motorcycle. I'm actually on the 3-wheeler. I actually converted this bike that was a 2-wheeler. Shout out to Frankenstein Trikes, who does Harley setups, and so they actually had my make and model, and I wanted to keep riding. But as I was getting older, dropping my bike, especially on cold days, bike would get heavy, or if the weather conditions weren't exactly perfect, or if it was cold, I couldn't ride. And so I really so enjoy riding, because riding is my therapy. I really use it to Here, my bike just died, so I am going to, there we go. I don't know what happened there. I got some cheap gas, and so I have a feeling that that was probably it. But anyway, where was I here? So I'm gonna go down this road. So yeah, having muscular dystrophy was definitely a challenge, but I didn't want it to stop me, and that was one thing that my mom always pushed me, always treated me normal. It didn't kind of handhold my disease, and so she really pushed me to continue to do what I wanted to do. Didn't put any limitations onto. We got a biker struggling, so I think I'm gonna pause the camera and see if I can be of any assistance, because that's what we're supposed to do. So with that being said, let's see how this old boy's doing here. You doing okay, brother?
Oh yeah, I'm doing good.
Okay, you need any help or anything?
Oh no, I'm just installing these mirrors.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was mechanical.
Oh no, it's not bad.
Okay, no problem, man. That's what bikers are supposed to do, bro. We gotta look out for each other. All right, brother. All right, man. Have a good one. Yeah, so he was just installing mirrors, if you didn't hear that. So yeah, with that being said, Mom always encouraged me, Dad always encouraged me, but as I did get older, you know, I did have my limitations, but that thought was, it kind of actually inspired me. You know what, you know, nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to do what I want to do. And so even when I started riding my motorcycle on two wheels, I started with the smaller bikes. I started on a 200cc. Just had to make sure I can maintain the weight, and you know, just didn't know anything about riding. Plus, I didn't want to invest a lot of money and then all of a sudden not be able to ride, you know. So I started with a Kicker 5150, and that was a blast. If you guys ever go on my Instagram page, it's Moto Mental Health on Instagram, and you will see the Kicker 250, 200cc. Sorry, not a 250. It's 200cc. Chopper in a box. So you got a website. You order your bike, get it delivered. And I was not mechanical whatsoever. So I actually had I reached out in the community and found a guy to put it together for me, and did a great job. Learned on that. And so yeah, I didn't want my physical limitations to limitate me, and so it's always been something I had a mindset about, just push myself as much as I possibly can, and it's kept me where I'm at now. I'm pushing 50, and I do see doctors once in a while just to check in on me. There's no kind of cure or medication that I can take, but you know, I still go see my doctors, and they're absolutely amazed because I'm pushing 50 and I'm as active as I am. And so anyway, that's if I can inspire anybody out there, no matter what challenges they go through, you know, just do what you can. You may not be able to do exactly the way you want. You might have to do some modifying, kind of like how I did with the trike. I modified the trike, and I might have modified my bike into a trike. And so I'm a triker biker. And so anyway, with that being said, you know, part of my job is in the mental health field is everyone comes with, you know, some issues, and sometimes some of those issues are physical issues, and maybe I can inspire somebody, you know, when I speak with them. And I actually got that from my father. My dad, when my mom was pregnant with me, he actually lost his leg. He was in a cotton gin down in Missouri, and basically my dad said he had an issue with a guy working at the cotton gin, and he had an argument with him the day before, and then he goes to work and he finds himself shoved, but there were no witnesses. The guy denies it, shoved my dad into a mill, and my dad fell into the mill and got his leg basically cut to the point where they had to amputate it fully. But with my dad, he never complained. That was amazing. He always went to work, no matter how he felt. And you know, being the sole provider of a very large family, I completely get it. But he was definitely my inspiration, despite his own personal struggles. He was somebody that I really looked up to and admired, based on his endurance and not letting things kind of get in his way. And so yeah, he was definitely my inspiration. I remember doing a school project, Who's Your Hero? And I wrote a whole paper on how my dad is my hero. A lot of the kids in my class were talking about Michael Jordan or Allen Iverson or whatever, you know, stars were prevalent at that time. But my dad was my hero. You know, he wasn't perfect by any means, and he definitely had his issues. But I definitely I get my will from him. And my mom, she was absolutely amazing mom, even though she did have her struggles. I remember growing up in the neighborhoods we did grow up in. I had a lot of friends who, a lot of my peers didn't have, they came from single family homes. A lot of times the father was out of the home, and or the mother was out of the home. But most of my friends considered my mother their mother, and my mom took really good care of them, or tried the best they could. I remember my friends coming over and eating with us, and always would refer to my mom as their mom. And you know, so I look back and that was just amazing. And you know, they had their issues, they had their addictions, but they were still. I was very blessed to have the parents that I did, and I learned a lot from them. So, reasons why I became a therapist. These are some of those reasons, and I have many more I can share as time goes on. These motovlogs, I'm hoping will be successful, be helpful, but I'm hoping to do many, many more. So I want to thank you for riding with me. Please like, subscribe, share the videos, and hopefully I'll do many more of these type of motovlogs. And until we meet again, I will see you in the fast lane, and please take care of yourself.